and welcome everybody to this presentation. We are so excited to introduce you to the technology community here at Wharton. One of the things that I just want to reiterate that Billy shared is the tech community here is very large. We comprise the largest number of students going into internships. So tech is the biggest piece of the pie for internships, and it's the second biggest piece of the pie for full-time after recruiting. So a lot of tech companies come here to find talent, and there's a really robust club and just set of peers that you can go through this process with. So what I want to do today is just pull the curtain back a little bit and share with you what's happening as far as the support we offer and the type of just recruiting processes that students are going through here at Wharton if they're interested in working in technology. So our agenda today is I'll give you a tech overview. We'll talk about how to explore tech, think about is it right for you if you're new to technology. I have some data insights. We're a very data-driven school, so we want to tell the story with our data. And we'll also talk, I'll show you a calendar of how tech companies engage with recruiting for first-year students. And then we'll open it up to the Q&A. I have a panel of alumni who have joined us today who will share a little bit about their backgrounds and their experiences, and then just be able to answer questions for you. So by way of quick introduction, my name is Sam Jones. I've been with the office for over 10 years, and I think that I can safely say I've helped more MBAs get jobs at Google and Amazon than any other career counselor in the country. So I have watched a lot of processes and a lot of different backgrounds of people going into technology. Technology is something I'm very passionate about, and helping people direct their careers in this direction. And then just a few other facts about me. In addition to my work at Wharton, I also have my doctorate in education, and I do research on what makes work meaningful. And I also teach in Penn's Graduate School of Education. So that's just another hat that I wear here at Penn. And then I'm based here in Philadelphia, where I live with my wife and our young daughter. All right, so a quick overview of tech. The first thing to know about tech is it is a very complicated industry because there are a lot of subsectors, and we've just listed some of them, right? Some of the people on this panel come from gaming. Others come from social media. There are people who work in hardware and software and fintech and ed tech. So tech has a lot of subsectors. And for some students, beginning to narrow down what subsector can be important to your job search, other students can keep it open. But I would say one of the challenging pieces of tech is the landscape is so wide and the aperture is so wide. So one of the things that we start encouraging students to do right away, and I'd encourage you to do this as well, is begin reading tech news every day. 15, 20 minutes, tech news, tech podcasts, just start getting your mind around what is going on in the industry. And then the other thing to know about how we're set up in the career management office is we specialize by industry verticals. So I have there's another advisor who's my colleague who covers startups. So again, the interest in tech is so large that we actually divided it between post-IPO tech, which is what I cover, and my colleague who does startups and entrepreneurship. There's obviously overlaps with our media advisor when you think of companies like Netflix or Hulu, with our healthcare advisor when you think of health tech, investment banking if you're interested in the tech, tech M&A work, consulting if you're looking at wanting to do tech cases or working at a consulting firm that focuses on technology advising. Venture capital, so we have a venture capital advisor. So if you're a little more interested actually in the working with a set of portfolio companies or investing in tech, you may also work with our VC advisor, and then our retail advisor as well. If you think of a company like Nike that may have like a digital channel. So the ecosystem is big, but we are really here to break it down, and we have different specialists to also help support you if you're looking in a different industry that overlaps with tech. These are 50 logos of companies that recruit at Wharton regularly. So every year they're coming back. So you have companies like Adobe and Facebook and Google and Microsoft. You have kind of marketplace companies like Zillow. You have some fintech like NerdWallet. You have and Venmo. You have, again, gaming companies like Riot. You have big SaaS companies like Salesforce and SAP. So these are companies that really view Wharton as a core school and have become recruiting partners with us. And we regularly engage with them for helping to place interns and full-time as well. So even though we're based in Philadelphia, we have a large net around the country and a very strong set of relationships with the West Coast. When you think of Seattle, you think of San Francisco, the Bay Area, as well as here on the East Coast with New York. So if you're interested in wondering, well, what companies come and recruit? Where do Wharton students intern and go full-time? This takes up a big piece of those students. Now, roles in technology. One of the misconceptions that people often have about technology is that you have to have a computer science background to work in technology. And that is not true in most cases. There are some technical roles that may require that you have technical skills, but most students are going into business roles that don't necessarily require that you have a computer science background. So some of the roles that you would see are business development. When you think of business development, this is really about partnerships. You think of if you have an iPhone, the iPhone has certain apps that are pre-installed. So those business development relationships, those partnerships between those companies allow for those apps to be pre-installed, and all sorts of other just partnerships that exist. So if you come from, say, a banking background or a role where you did a lot of negotiations, this could be a good fit for you. We have corporate development, which is mostly mergers and acquisitions. A lot of people from private equity and banking backgrounds will go into this role. Product management, which is probably our most popular role right now. And this is really working with the product roadmap, product features. You're really the CEO of a product. And I would say about half of the roles, or maybe 40% of the roles, require that you do have a more technical background, computer science degree, an engineering degree. And then about half of the roles don't require that you're that technical. And companies will be very clear about that. And then if we go here, marketing. So if you're interested in marketing, being a product marketing manager, this could be with pricing. A lot of it's very data oriented. So that could be a good fit. Operations. So that could be the operations of a company, but it often deals with supply chains as well for companies that make physical products. Sales. Sales is sometimes an under-tapped role, but it's one as an MBA where you can step into leadership and manage people really quickly. There's certainly a lot of upsides with sales. Analytics roles are becoming really popular. Think of data science roles. Wharton is a great place to build analytics skills. And whether you're going into an analytics role or not, I would definitely encourage you to take advantage of some of the analytics classes here if you're thinking about tech. Because at the end of the day, everything is about the data and what's happening with the data and looking at the product through a data lens. And then there's corporate finance, there's leadership development programs, there's human resource programs in the people space. There's lots of other opportunities as well. So while stepping back for a second, tech is a big industry with a lot of subsectors. It's also an industry with a lot of different functions. And so in many ways, there's a place for many people, a place for everybody. The other thing I wanted to share with you is what a career path could look like. And these are 4 of our alumni. So Christian Hernandez, you can see that he started his career in big tech and worked his way through a couple of big tech companies. And now he works in venture capital. So he's a partner in venture capital. You can see Helen Chang. We're really proud of her. She is someone who is the first woman to run a large gaming studio in the US, so with Minecraft. But she's built her entire career in one tech company. So Christian started with big tech into VC. Helen moved just across one company her whole career. Kit represents someone who started in big tech and moved to a startup. So, and his startup, the startup he was working at has been acquired by Amazon. But that's another career path when you think about that, moving from starting in big tech and then moving to startups. And then lastly, Dave Vasson, who started in big tech and then has become a founder with Brightwheel. And a fun fact about Dave is he was a winner on Shark Tank. Is one of the ways that he got his startup funded. So when you think about if you're asking the question, well, if I start my career in big tech, where might I end up? These, I think, are 4 great examples or kind of archetypes. You could end up in an investing role. You could just build your career in one company. You may start off in big tech and then move to a startup, or you may start off in big tech and then start your own company. All right, the other thing I just want to share are 2 just like attributes of people who I really see do well in tech. And our alumni talk about this, recruiters talk about this. You know, the first is someone who truly has a passion for technology. They're excited about it. They like solving tech problems. They like reading and learning about tech. It's very rare that you see a Wharton MBA going into tech and they feel ambivalent about tech. It's like, oh, I could be in tech or anywhere else. No, they really tend to really, really like it. And a lot of the interviews are kind of casual and conversational. And interviewers are looking for, do you have that passion for the space that's going to drive you to innovate and do great work? So that's one thing that you can ask yourself. The other is just a comfort with ambiguity. And I'm sure our panelists can talk about this. And if you come from tech, you know what this can mean. But tech is constantly evolving. The key products in the market can change. The structure of the organization, we talk a lot about companies reorging. Reorgings can be frustrating, but they can also be an opportunity for advancement. In many tech companies, careers are not linear. You have to pave your own way. And that's also can be reflected in the recruiting process. You know, you may get a call from a tech recruiter who asks, are you free for an interview this Friday? And you're super excited. You give the recruiter some time. You start preparing for the interview. And then she doesn't get back to you for 15 days. So you've sent 5 follow-up emails. It just can be these starts and fits with recruiting and some of the ambiguity of working in tech. So we really like to emphasize that. If you're someone who really loves predictability and structure, there can be some challenges in working in the tech sector. All right, next up are just some data insights for you. The first that I like to share is that for internships, 17% of the class wants to work in tech and 17% of the class does work in tech. So we have a really nice supply-demand fit. And that's not true of every industry. We have some industries where 24% of the class want to work in that industry and 12 to 13% of the class do work in that industry. So there's obviously a lot more disappointment and frustration with the number of people the market can absorb. So I think this is really great news that there really is a place for you if you want to work in tech. There's just a lot of opportunity for MBAs. And that's been another great piece about working in tech. 10 years ago, sometimes MBAs would go to a tech company and not even share that they had an MBA. Whereas now tech companies are actively recruiting MBAs for the skill set. Because if you can build a great product, that's great as a company, but if you can't figure out how to finance it and market it, it doesn't really matter. So I do think the MBA skill set is increasingly being valued by tech companies. Another piece of data that I would share with you is that 70% of people from Wharton who go to tech are new to tech. So 70% of people are career switching their industry. So another myth is perhaps you need to come from tech to work in tech, and that is not the case. Sometimes companies want you to play into the functional background that you have. Some are more open, but just the high level here is a lot of people are career switching into this sector. All right, engaging with tech companies. So what does tech recruiting actually look like? So if you were to come as a first year, September is a bit of a blackout time. There are some dates here where we give in-depth presentations about tech companies to prepare you for tech recruiting. And then in October is the second half of October is when companies start coming on campus. They do coffee chats, they do company presentations. In November, we have something really unique at Wharton. It's called Tech Week. And Tech Week is a concentration of tech companies on campus, panels, coffee chats. It's this real inflection point for the tech community where we really compress together a lot of recruiting. So it's a really exciting time of year and also a time where you just learn a ton about recruiting. In December is when applications are due. And then in January is when what we call our focused recruiting period starts. This is when interviews will happen on campus or interviews start taking place. And February 4th is when offers start to begin to be finalized. although for tech, the timeline of offers will go throughout the spring. But I wanted to give you just a little sense of, what is happening your first, semester here, and really wanted to give a call out to the Tech Week that we have in November, because it's a really exciting time for the Tech Club and for our community. And with that, I actually want to stop sharing my screen because I have a panel of alumni that are with me, and I want them to be able to, be spotlighted and introduce themselves a little bit and kind of kick things off. I have a couple of questions for them, and then we'll open things up for to take some of your questions. And then as well, we will just answer as many of your questions as we can. So, right now I have Annie and Stephan with me, and I guess we'll just kind of kick off with like a quick introduction. And I actually have a couple of questions for you that I'll put in the chat. I know I sent them to you, but we'll let everybody see what they are as well. And kick things off, just letting us know a few things about yourself. So just kind of introduce yourself. Where do you work now? Were you a career switcher? Where did you work before Wharton? And what do you like about working in tech? And we'll just alphabetical by your names, by your first names, just to make it easier. So Annie, you can kick it off.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, and thank you all for joining. This is so much fun. So as a quick introduction to myself, I'll go kind of chronologically. Before coming to Wharton, I worked in Beijing in China-focused strategy consulting. And so I knew going into Wharton that I did want to be a career switcher, but I came in with a little bit of an open mind, not sure exactly what I wanted to switch to. I knew I wanted to be based in the US, and I knew I wanted to try something new. And so I actually joined the Wharton Lauder dual degree program focused on international studies. So I was still able to carry through some of that focus on China, but also to expand my experience to a bunch of new things. So I really used my time at Wharton to explore. In my first, one of my first classes was on marketing, and I just fell in love with that way of thinking. And so I was really excited about marketing. I participated in the Wharton Social Venture Fund, and I was really excited about social impact space. I started my own startup during my second year and explored entrepreneurship. And really, I did the semester in San Francisco program. I really tried to get exposure to a lot of different things. But what I really kept being drawn towards was the power of technology and how much tech really has the power to shape the world, change the world. And so I just was so excited by that. And so I did my internship in between the 2 years at Microsoft in product marketing, the PMM role, and happy to answer questions about that. I went back full time to Microsoft and worked there for 2 years in the Windows and devices business, product marketing. Then I moved over to Facebook and helped build the Chinese advertising business at Facebook. And then I switched over, it's still within Facebook Inc., but now I work for Instagram specifically, and I've been there coming up on 3 years, doing product marketing around tools that support small businesses specifically so that they can be more successful on Instagram. And so product marketing is a really strategic and interesting role. It's similar, and at Facebook and Instagram, it is similar sometimes to PM roles at other companies. Where we really try to be both the voice of the product in market, so the more go-to-market side of marketing, but also being the voice of the market in product and really influencing product teams on what should they be building and why, and basing that on a deep understanding of the market, of our users and customers and sales teams. So I love the product marketing role and happy to chat more about that and about Instagram and Facebook and Microsoft.
Awesome, Annie. And for all of you as panelists, would you mind putting in parentheses after your name the company you currently work in, just so our members can see that? And Annie, can I tell a funny story about you? I wonder if you will.
Sure.
So, a number of years ago, right before you made the transition of working from Microsoft to Facebook, do you remember this? So
I'm very nervous. Please go on.
So in the summers in the career management office, we do company visits. So I flew out to Seattle and did a company visit, and I met with Annie, and she told me all about like life at Microsoft as a full-time employee, and we had a great visit and other full-time employees, but we specifically talked about how great Microsoft was. And then the next week I flew down to San Francisco to meet with companies, and I was in the Facebook lobby waiting to like meet with our alumni there, and in comes Annie as a visitor to interview at Facebook. And we just had like a funny eye contact and wave, and you went into your interview. And that was, I remember that's how I learned about your transition from Microsoft to Facebook. I caught you interviewing.
So funny, caught red-handed. But yes, I mean, it was, and I mentioned this to you before, but something that was really amazing about Wharton is how much support there was from Sam and his office. I had so many questions as a career switcher, but really felt supported in figuring it out and understanding what these companies were looking for and how to position myself in those interviews. So yeah, that was a very fortunate run-in.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. Thank you, Annie. Well, Nicolette, do you want to go next? Just introduce yourself. Where are you working now? What did you do before Wharton? And what do you like about working in tech?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicolette Amoyla, two last names. At Google right now, I'm in business development sales. Specifically, my title is a business lead. We can get into that. Before Wharton, I was actually a teacher. So I did Teach for America, and I taught in New York for 6 years. I thought I was going to very much be a principal and stay in the movement and open my own school. And then, you know, life happens and you just want to evaluate if that's really the path you want. And so I used business school as an opportunity to really learn about myself, to figure out, you know, I'm just a very multi-passionate person, so I wanted to make sure that I wasn't limiting my options. And then let me answer all of the questions you asked. So before Wharton, I did that. And then what do I like about working in tech? I love probably the flexibility the most. I think I had a lot of conversations with Sam about that. I was, you know, already married going into business school, and I knew that I wanted to have a family. And so while I also wanted to pivot into something, being a teacher that, you know, is good for my resume and would help my career, I also really wanted a place that would be really understanding with, you know, wanting to start a family, just get into life. And so tech was really perfect because it provided that flexibility. It was still, you know, intellectually engaging. And I've always kind of seen myself as someone who's going to be an entrepreneur. And I thought that really understanding digital marketing and the whole landscape would help me in whatever way I decided to be an entrepreneur. So that's me.
That's fantastic.
Hi,
So good to see you. I remember you were really good. You were a really good negotiator too. I remember like
oh yeah,
you
got it. You know, that's why I'm in sales now. It just made sense.
Exactly.
I don't know if it worked though, right? Like nothing really worked, but we tried everything. So
we tried everything. So
yeah.
If anyone needs negotiation tips, I remember Nicolette's the person to go to.
Yeah, for sure.
Fantastic. So good to see you. Well, Ravi, you want to do your introduction?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ravi. I work at Google right now. I'm one of the product managers on Gmail and chat. It's been about 2 years in the team, so it's been awesome so far. If you've seen any recent changes to your Gmail mobile app, you know, I might have a role to play in that, so that's fun. So that covers what I do for work now. Were you a career switcher? So it's a little bit of a yes and no. I was a consultant with BCG back in Mumbai, and I used to work for this practice called Digital BCG. So I was a strategy consultant, but I was working in a digital practice within the firm, which also meant that I was advising our clients on digital strategy and, you know, helping them build digital applications in some cases. So that really gave me a lot of skill set that was required for product management later on. So yes, it's a functional switch, but a lot of the skills that I gained at my previous work really helped me get a role post MBA. Well, that also covers what I did before Wharton. What do you like about working in tech? Yeah, I mean, I plus one, Nicolette, you know, the amount of flexibility that you have. And second, you know, you can really be as entrepreneurial as you would like, right? You know, these careers are not really laid out as as they would be in a finance or a consulting world. So I came from BCG, so it is practically an up or out policy, right? Every 2 years you either go up or you go out. So this is a very refreshing change where you can drive as hard as you would like when everyone has different phases in life, and tech companies let you choose when you want to go that extra mile and drive hard and move fast in your career versus take a step back, focus on your family, etc. So that's one lever of flexibility. The other really is the areas that you want to work on, right? We only have a high level mandate within the team to make the product better, but you really have a lot of flexibility to determine what area do you want to pick, what area do you want to improve, and get to work with the best engineers and get that out. So flexibility in different layers, that's what I really like. I also wanted to add what I probably don't enjoy as much, right? Also coming from a very traditional consulting background is there's a lot else that's also happening that's determinant of your success, right? The product has to do well, the market has to do well. A lot of these externalities also, start to impact you. So what I would advise to anyone who's looking at tech is to also understand, have an eye on the macro trends, right? Always ride the good wave, right? If Facebook's doing well, if a particular product is doing well, try and align yourself with the rising tide. That's an advice that I give myself, and I wanted to give that to all of you as well.
Great advice. Really, really great advice. And thanks for sharing both the positive and the negative there. It's good. Good to hear. All right, Stephan.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. Hello, everyone. Stephan Hawthorne. I'm currently a product manager at Adobe, working on our, if you're familiar with the photography world, our Lightroom product, so our photo editing product at Adobe. I am a career switcher. So before Wharton, I was an engineer at 3M company in one of our research labs. So I was out in Minnesota, so I did that for 5 years. Hit a point where I looked up at my cubicle, and I'm fairly short, so I had to kind of tippy-toe on my chair. Looked at everyone senior to me and said, all right, do I want this? And is this really what I want for my future? And I kind of looked up and I was like, no, I think I want to be more on the business side. And that's what spurred the move to get an MBA and break into product management. So I knew beforehand that is why I wanted to go to business school. During Wharton, a couple of things that really stood out to me. So I actually interned at Pandora before they got acquired by XM. So if you're familiar with Pandora Radio, really interesting summer because it was a year before they got acquired. Totally very interesting tone before it all went down. And one thing that I really enjoyed at Wharton was actually SSF, so semester in San Francisco, similar to Annie. One thing I'll point out that was really great about that is tech is very, well, pre-pandemic, tech was very central, very focused in San Francisco. So for example, while I was in Philly, I tried to get a coffee chat with someone over the phone who's working, say, at Airbnb and so, and it was hard to get responses. When I was there in San Francisco, I was like, hey, I'm here, want to grab coffee? They're like, hey, come over for lunch. And I got a lot of great lunches out of it, tours, met a lot of people, and it's just being there is very different. And it's a good crowd, and that was probably one of the best moments and one of the better things I've taken advantage of at Wharton that I really enjoy at the time. Things that I like about working in tech. I love fast-paced stuff. I enjoy chaos to some degree. And that's what a lot of tech is. Just a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity, great opportunities to really create your own path as opposed to, say, more established careers. And that customization is something I've enjoyed and continue to enjoy. And I'll probably be in tech for a very, very long time, if not the rest of my life.
Sounds like you have found your passion.
I have.
I remember you're a passionate person. Well, we have a question from a student named Erica, and she's interested in knowing, are there any must-take classes? And Erica is specifically interested in like tech/marketing, but I think you could broaden it. Like, yeah, are there any must-take classes from your point of view for working in tech or working in the function you work in?
I can jump in real quick. So I highly recommend Professor Fader's class. It's such a long title, I always forget it. The probability class, it's really helpful. It's a set of skills that aren't used a lot or expected from MBAs, but when folks ask the questions that skill can come up in, you're super useful, really useful. That's the one class where I downloaded all the video lectures and all the notes just so I had it in case someone asked a question on building probability models and I could refer them to that. So that's a clutch class.
Fantastic. Yeah, Dr. Pete Fader gets a lot of shout outs and a lot of love from students. People always say it's like the hardest class they ever took, but the one they love the most. So,
I can add two names.
Mm-hmm.
There is this course called Entrepreneurship by Professor Ethan Mollick. That is a very good course. I think the professor really taught us something called evidence-based execution, which I refer to not just in my work, but also in life, right? When I'm making decisions, I really look for evidence on why that's the right decision and try and add those facts while making decisions. So that is a good course. The other course is finance of entrepreneurship and finance of innovation. I think it's Professor Luke Taylor. I might not be listing the name right, but it's Professor Luke Taylor's course on venture capital, basically. Those two courses I found really useful.
There was another course too with Ethan Mollick that was a simulation. Did you talk about that, Ravi? I don't think he's just at that, but it was a simulation and it was really great because I don't want to ruin it for you if you are going to take the class, but it really gets you into, I think, the mindset that you have to have. Because in my role, for instance, while I have a lot of flexibility, I have 25 clients, and it really is about me taking the lead in how I'm going to approach this and bring a lot of money into Google. And so that class really kind of set a great framework and for how to approach ambiguity, and that is what Google loves. And they just expect you to be smart and figure it out when something comes up. So I really loved that class, and I think everyone should take it just to take it. But yeah, really applicable to tech.
Those are great ones. And I would just add, when I was in the semester in San Francisco, every class that we took was very tech centric, and they'd bring some of the best professors in a really small, great environment. So those were particularly great, like a digital marketing class, a class on how innovation works, kind of from a macro perspective with Carl Ulrich, the VC course that Ravi posted with Professor Wessels was amazing to understand how the funding mechanism works behind startups. There were so many different cool classes that really got me to understand the tech industry. And then, of course, negotiations was great just in general for life. So lots of great coursework.
Fantastic. Well, Annie, you just mentioned the semester in San Francisco courses. We had a question or two in the chat about what is the semester in San Francisco program and what was your experience like? So for I think a couple of you did it, if you want to comment on that.
Sure, I can start. I think Stephan maybe also mentioned. Basically, you, instead of a semester abroad, you get to go to the other world of the Bay Area and go with a small group of students who are similarly interested in either tech or entrepreneurship or venture capital. And so it's a really passionate group of people. I made really great friends who often ended up moving to the Bay Area. And so that ended up being my friend group post-Wharton as well. But you take classes that can be pretty focused on those areas of interest. You also can attend a bunch of panels with companies. You can go visit these companies in person. There's a ton of resources available to you, networking with alumni who are living in the Bay Area. I think for folks who are interested, especially career switchers like me, the access that we got during semester in San Francisco was really unparalleled. And it was very energizing. I felt just like had so many different ideas going. That's when I started working on my own startup. It just is a very exciting place to be, and to feel like you're in student mode, but also kind of breaking into the space. It just was a lot of fun.
Plus one, what Annie just mentioned, I'd just add the one excellent thing about SSF as well, and sorry if I'm saying the acronym, Semester in San Francisco, is quite a few of my peers, classmates did internships and jobs during that semester. And for quite a few of them, this was like a great way to break into the space and have that experience. At the time, and it's probably today, one thing that really stood out for companies when they're hiring full-time is, do you have experience in tech? Any experience whatsoever? And for quite a few folks, that was the leg in the door. And yeah, great crowd, great opportunity to just see what San Francisco is about and just get into the tech community while still being at Wharton. You're on mute, Sam.
Along this vein, like broadening out from just SSF, there have been a couple of questions in the chat about the student tech clubs or tech activities that happen at Wharton. So I wanted to see if you could share any of your experiences with us.
I can start. Maybe go ahead, Stephan.
Oh, no, I just spoke. I'll let you go first, Ravi.
Okay. So I was one of the student organizers for the Wharton Tech Week in my second year. And I can tell that Tecla Board was one of the most fun experiences and a fun group that I've had at Wharton. It was very, very active. I think there are a bunch of events that we've organized. I think the second years helped first year students polish their resumes, prepare for mock interviews, have sessions on how to prepare for these big tech and small tech companies early on in the semester, have these weekly events called Tech Tuesdays, have a week-long series of events and lectures and panel discussions called Tech Week. That's just a lot of programming that's focused on career recruiting, right? When I, in full candidness, when I meet my friends from other business schools in that December break, we were just chatting about jobs and everything else, and I see that the Wharton kids were just so much more well prepared and so much more well aware of the processes and just how the recruitment works with different companies. It almost feels like a like a career machine. In addition to, of course, all the fun that we have. I almost thought it was normal until I met folks from outside and we had those exchange of information on these recruitment processes. So definitely +1 on Wharton Tech Club. Props to the club.
+1 to that. I would just add being involved, not only attending all of that great programming, but I think being like volunteering to be one of the organizers was really useful for me. I organized during the first year a tech trek. We're actually taking a bunch of other students to go visit over break to actually be in those different companies and talking to people. I ended up being able to network with the recruiters at all of those companies and building relationships with them. Felt like a really great way to get to know the companies and to kind of have that relationship building. So huge +1 for the tech club, and especially getting involved and helping drive some of that programming.
How did I miss the tech tracks? Those were amazing. We had both a big tech, there was a big tech, then there was, what we called the long tail of companies, which is more entrepreneurial recruiting. Is that what we call it? I think, so we had 2 different tracks addressing these 2 different types of companies. And I was on 2 tracks in the Bay Area and 1 track in New York, right? So I probably visited like 15 companies via the tech club. So that's an opportunity that you should all definitely make use of.
And I was like, am I good? I'm not a very good role model in this case. I did whatever I wanted at Wharton. So I don't have like a specific tech. I think I was a member, but I was a part of everything. And I did various things. I was of the, I was a VP, the VP of student life. So I did I worked at the student life office a lot. We did all the fun stuff and the programming. I was in Follies. I did P3. I just went to business school to career switch and find myself and have a good time. So I say that to say, like, yes, you can do all of this. You know, the career stuff is important, especially for the career switchers trying to figure it out. But I think my biggest fondest memory of business school and what I'm most proud of is how much I used the time to explore who I was as a person, who I am as a person, you know, the impact I really want to have on my family and life, and just like having a really good time and meeting people from all walks of life. So you don't have to like be the president of the tech club to like get a job in tech. I should just say that my resume probably looked crazy. But ultimately I spoke to the skill set that I was going to need to use at Google, which is, you know, very client facing, speaking to, using numbers to storytell and do all that. So as long as you're getting that and you can speak to how that aligns to the job description, you're good. Don't feel the need to, you know, go on thousands of treks and different things. Though the one or two I went on were very good. So that, yeah.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah, and I would just echo that. I think the tech club is one of the strongest clubs at Wharton. It's very organized. It's always like well staffed with student officers, a lot of programming. I think Ravi mentioned there's a weekly meeting of the tech club called Tech Tuesdays at lunch on Tuesdays, where there are speakers, our office speaks, we bring in companies to speak, alumni speak. So it's this constant flow of education that takes place. They host interview pods where the students are grouped together for interview practice, as well as just the multitude of other activities that have been mentioned. So yeah, there's a lot of student-run activities to support student-to-student kind of careers in technology.
I do want to make one plug, Sam.
Do it.
Beyond Tech Club. Insight is another program at Penn that spans other schools as well. But what ends up happening is there's a cohort within all of Penn across the MBA law school, and they do consulting, a wide range of functions, but they do projects for small companies within the area. So I was a part of that, and it was a great chance to work with startups, help them solve problems, get a better understanding, and just work across the school to get a lot of experience. So not directly tech club, but a great way to get a taste of what it's like to work with startups, what's work to do a little bit of consulting, and what's like to just really get scrappy on those projects.
Fantastic. It's a great point. An Insight program. All right, we've had a couple of questions around the startups. So I think there's two questions we can lump together. One is about just recruiting for smaller companies. So if any of you had the experience of kind of looking at some smaller companies, you know, what that looked like as far as on-campus, off-campus. And then related to that, there's another question about just recruiting with companies that don't come on campus. So by way of context, about 75 to 80% of students working in tech acquire their job through some type of on-campus engagement. Either the company posted the job on campus or physically came on campus, or students went on a trek to that company. So let's kind of scope the world a little bit. It could be big tech that doesn't come on campus, or just this kind of multitude of startups coming on campus or not coming on campus. So do any of you kind of have experience with that type of recruiting? So I guess we're partialing out not big tech that comes on campus to find you, but kind of the rest of the world.
Yeah, that was me personally for my internship search. So I interned at Pandora the summer during business school, and they didn't formally recruit on campus. I actually met the recruiter the summer before I started. Totally different case. But to Sam's point about like emailing the recruiter, yeah, I kept that going on and on and on. So you're like, hey, I saw you guys did this new product. It looks really awesome. Just kept it going. That recruiter actually ended up leaving before the hiring process even happened. And what ended up happening is that she was like, oh yeah, I know this person who's been like really engaged and stuff. She passed my name to the follow-up recruiter who got in contact with me when they were actually hiring for MBAs. And for the small companies, what ends up happening is that it's, especially for internship, it's towards like the end of the first year. So there's tends to be a pressure like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten a job in the fall. Everyone's getting jobs at these big companies. And my personal experience has been like the really interesting small startups that you don't want to recruit directly or indirectly come close to the summer. And they are very, very fascinating.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a great story about meeting a recruiter and staying in touch with them, having a contact and staying in touch with them. It's really great. Anyone else have any comments about startups or just companies not recruiting on campus?
Yeah, just some quick thoughts. I think for this, so even though I had done my internship at Microsoft, while I was doing the semester in San Francisco, I said I should be open-minded, explore, would I consider working at startups? And so that was actually a great way for me to get exposure to some other smaller startups. And I did go through the recruiting process with some of them. I think this was also critical for using the alumni network. I ended up reaching out to a ton of Wharton alums as I was thinking about this, who worked at the different startups, so that I could get the inside scoop, understand what their experience had been. And I think the Wharton Alumni Network is obviously one of its selling points of people are all over the place, have experience in these companies, and were willing to kind of help me and give me that inside scoop. So that was huge. Yeah, I think that's the critical way that I thought about startup recruiting. You do have to be a bit more proactive. You have to go after it a little bit more and take the initiative. But there are really great alumni out there to help.
Better than that, you could build your own startup. Some of my classmates did that. There are at least 4 or 5 startups that I know which have gotten Series A now. It's been 2 years. So Wharton definitely lets you, spend a lot of time on stuff like that.
That's a great point too. Well, another question that's come up is about your majors. So I guess, what were your majors? A few of you typed them in. But to what degree do you think, the major that you were able to put on your resume or talk about in recruiting made a difference for you in being able to get your job? Or do you think in tech, like what you major in isn't as important?
So I didn't type it in there, but I created my own major actually to try to have it be more clear in my resume. So I think I called something like technology and innovation management, I think is what I called it. And I thought that would stand out. Ultimately, I don't think it was that important. I think it doesn't hurt to show that there was focus, but I think that there are a lot of reasons that people hire MBAs at these companies, and having a wide-ranging skill set of understanding data, understanding market analyses, et cetera. The Wharton name, I think, probably spoke louder than the major I made up.
Mm-hmm. Ravi, it looks like in the comments you concur.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what I felt was the major itself wouldn't really give you a lot of points, but I feel like if there are some specific skills that you highlight based on what you'd learned from those courses, and those are things that would generally come out more in the interview than from the resume itself. That's what I found to be more useful. The moment you're shortlisted for the interview process, what I found is that the resume is just no longer useful. It's all about what you deliver and what skills you convey in the interview process thereon. So having a major by itself wouldn't really shortlist or not shortlist you. That's at least what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But having some past relevant experience definitely helps, right? If you're applying for product roles, it definitely helps that you've at least had a product internship or a PM job in the past or something product related. Mm-hmm. At least for Google, they really want people with similar experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that at least that's what I've seen at Google. If you are going to do a non-tech role, it doesn't matter. Like, do whatever you want. But if you want to do like a tech role, sometimes it seems like, people who have the business analytics or any kind of do this, the CS dual degree, really kind of, I think, take a leap in the process. But again, it's all really about how you communicate your story. And Google is, again, looking for people who are personable. I mean, it's their other word for googly. They're not allowed to say googly anymore because it's unclear and nobody knows what it means. But it just basically means that you are, you work hard, but you're easygoing. You don't like bringing stress and drama to the mix. Google's quite conservative and just trying to not step on any toes. If you see Sundar, if you want Sundar at all of the congressional hearings versus everyone else, he's let's just chill, everybody, chill. So I think that's what they're looking for more. But there was a question that I realized I didn't really kind of answer. I did try to build a venture while I was at Wharton. I think it is a great opportunity to do that. Won some money to do it. Ultimately decided to close once I saw how much Google was going to pay me, and was like, I don't want to suffer. That. And then there was another one. Oh yes, definitely. The recruiters. The first recruiter I met at an event. I went to a Forte event, actually, Forte Foundation for any women. It's a pipeline for women who want to become MBAs, an organization. You should check it out if you haven't. And I met the recruiter there, and then I just kept meeting her through different events. And she, I actually wanted to go into product and education because I was a teacher and had started to learn how to code and do different things. And she said, look, everyone from Wharton wants to go into product. It's just not going to fully happen, but I think you'd be really great on this other team. And I wasn't fully considering, biz dev and sales, but it absolutely made sense and it absolutely aligns with my strengths. So I kind of see myself as doing this right now at Google, and then later in my Google career, kind of going into something more product or tech. So that's another thing that I didn't think about as much in business school. You feel like your first job out has to be the end all be all, but there's actually different parts and trajectories of your career. So if you don't have the product stuff now, that's okay. You can go into a biz dev role and you can learn, take Google's own courses and proceed to move into a new role while you're at Google. So lots of different ways you can do it all.
Fantastic. All right, we've come to our 4 o'clock time. I wonder if each of you in 15 or 20 seconds have any final words to students who are considering coming to Wharton from a tech lens. So I guess it's your pitch for why Wharton in 15 or 20 seconds.
Okay, 2 things. Want to have a ton of fun, want to land the best job that you can, Wharton is the place. Non-controversial statement, which all other schools will agree.
Love it.
So I'm going to cheat a little and I'm going to agree with Ravi's 1 and 2, but I'm going to add 3 as a teacher. I did not think, I believed stereotypes about Wharton. I was like, those people are crazy. They're really too aggressive for me. And I walked onto campus and someone led me around and I was very pleasantly surprised by how wonderful the cohort of Wharton MBA are. I didn't feel the intensity, but maybe I also didn't put myself in that situation. But yeah, so it was great and one of the best choices of my life.
Wonderful.
I would just add, Wharton really allowed me to choose my own adventure. I think there's strength in so many different areas and there's so many resources that I felt like I really had the space to explore, experiment, try things, and really find what was the best fit for me.
Fantastic. Well, Annie, Nicolette, Ravi, and Stephan, who had to hop off, thank you so much for spending this hour with us. I think you've added so much value to people who are thinking about it, and I'm sure in the future you're going to get some emails from people who say they're coming to Wharton because they saw you on this panel. So really can't thank you enough, and I'm going to turn things back over to Billy.